to do this, and I actually love doing this, and
Amazing.
yeah, and
Amazing.
technology being what it is, I can go anywhere in the world every day,
Love
so
this.
when it's working.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a little introduction for you that I was going to do before we put you on screen, but I'll still introduce you. So you're a world-renowned author, you're a lecturer, you are the founder of the Udo's Choice brand.
Co-founder.
You're
Co-founder.
co-founder. And your book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, one of the many books that you've written, that was one of the first texts publicly available on the role of dietary fats, especially essential fats, omega-3 and omega-6, and the roles that they play in health. And also the first to develop cold-pressed seed oils, starting with flaxseed oil.
Yeah, not cold. Not cold. Hang on, Katie. Not cold pressed.
Yeah.
Cold pressed. Cold pressed is a meaningless term that has no definition. But first, to make oils with health in mind. My claim to fame is I developed a method to make oils with health in mind. And that required a very, very tight system. So no light, no oxygen, and no high temperature could damage the oil during the processing. So,
but it would be right to say that.
Yeah, and I'm in the
Hall
of Fame for starting. I'm in the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame for starting the industry of making oils with health in mind.
Perfect. Yeah, they're sort of so effectively the first to create these specific oils. And I mean, you've been educating audiences about healthy fats for in over 40 countries for over 30 years now. We're really happy to have you with us. Thank you very much.
Good.
So I explained before you came back that we've got a number of questions that we have collected from multiple different people who work in the industry and who wanted to know all sorts about your products, and that if there's time at the end, there might even be time to have some ones that have been asked throughout this webinar as well.
Yeah. By the way, Katie, I have a sheet with all those questions.
Amazing.
3 pages, and including additional questions if needed.
Oh, love it.
So
love it.
I don't know.
Great. So you're fully prepared.
So I have it, and I have looked at it, and I think I could probably do a pretty good job of dealing with all of those questions.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, for some context then, and for Udo's Choice history, my first question to you is, what was the main motivation for creating the Udo's Choice brand originally?
That's what I got.
Yeah.
Yep. So are we on?
Yeah, absolutely. We're ready to go.
Oh, okay. So that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. So here I go.
So,
So my main motivation for creating the oils, or really creating the method for making oils with health in mind, was that I got poisoned by pesticides in 1980. And I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poison?" She said, "Nothing." And that made it pretty clear whose responsibility my health is, right? And I had good background in biochemistry and genetics, and I decided to try and figure it out myself. I hadn't studied nutrition. I had studied biochemistry and biology, and that's actually a lot of health information in biology, because you're studying normal creatures functioning normally in normal situations. And in medicine, I took a year. We only learned about disease. So I went back into biological sciences because I figured I would learn more about health there than in medicine. And so anyway, so I got poisoned by pesticides, and then I went into Medline, the research engine that has all of the science that published in it. And there were like 16 million studies published in Medline at the time. I think now there's 38 million. And I was looking for anything to do with health and nutrition or disease and nutrition, because my idea was, well, the body's made out of food, and I wasn't thinking about water and air at the time. So focused on food. Well, if something goes wrong with your body, then what you need to do is you need to raise your standards of food intake. And within 1 year, you can rebuild 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's called healing. That's why healing is possible, because your body's always turning over. And so I was looking for, well, what are the pieces? What do I need? What does a better standard look like? And so I got into the essential nutrients, because those are the most important aspects of nutrition. Simply because the definition is you can't make them, you have to have them. So they have to be brought in from outside. That's the first part. Second part is, if you don't get enough, you can't stay healthy. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. This is how important these specific nutrients are. And then the third part of it is, if your health is deteriorating and you're heading to die, but you bring enough of the missing nutrients back into your diet, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, and you get your health back, because life knows what to do if we take responsibility at our mouth to make sure all of the essential building blocks land in the body so that it can do its work. And then the fourth part is, there has to be at least one biochemical reaction in the body in which that nutrient is required, and without which that reaction cannot take place. So that's the definition of an essential nutrient. And that applies to 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids from proteins, 2 essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6 from oils, and 0 from carbohydrates. No essential nutrients in carbohydrates. No essential nutrients that are carb-based that you can't get elsewhere. And so then I started looking at all of that. And then I got into fats, because it was really contradictory. The information was really contradictory. And the example that really got me was, I read a study. It said omega-6 is an essential nutrient by the definition I just gave, and that's why I gave it. Omega-6 is an essential nutrient that you have to have. And the very next study I read said omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And I'm going, what the hell is going on here, right? I have to take it so it can kill me with cancer? No, there must be something else going on that I'm not getting. And it was that thing that made me look deeper. And then I started looking at how oils are made and the damage done to them during processing. And what I found out is that when the oils are made the way industry makes them, all of the colorless, odorless, tasteless oils that you find on the shelves in plastic bottles, they treat them with sodium hydroxide, which is a very harsh base chemical, then with phosphoric acid, a very harsh acid. Then they bleach them with bleaching clays to get the color molecules out, because the color molecules absorb light, and the light then damages the oil. And then the oil goes rancid and smells and tastes bad. So then they heat the oil to frying temperature for half an hour in a process called deodorization, or molecular distillation, or wiped film evaporation, to get rid of the rancid molecules. And at the end of it, you end up with a colorless, odorless, tasteless oil. You can't tell where it came from, because all of the flavor molecules are gone. And that oil is 0.5 to 1% damaged. 0.5 to 1% of the molecules are damaged. Well, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I was sick, and I called the chemist at the Oil Chemist Society, the umbrella organization. And I said, when you know this does damage to the oil, why do you do that? And he said, well, one of the reasons we do it is we can get rid of half the pesticides in the oil. And I'm going crazy in my head. It's like, I didn't say anything, but it's like, oh, I've been poisoned by pesticides. You mean the other half stays in? Oh, I didn't even know there were pesticides in oils at that point. So I said, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? And then he got mad at me. First, there was a long silence, because I guess he'd never heard the question. It's not a complicated question, but he'd never heard it. And so when he got back to me, he got really angry. He said, I don't know what the hell your problem is. The oil is only 1% damaged. It's 99% good. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? So now I'm backing off. I said, well, maybe I'm overreacting. It's only 1%. So I decided to do the math. And the math I did was, I said, if you have a tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged by the processing, how many damaged molecules will you have in that tablespoon? And if you've never heard me say that, then I want you to guess, Katie.
Oh, sorry. Tell me. So, say that again. Sorry.
A tablespoon of oil is 1%
Yeah.
damage. How many
Yeah.
damaged oil molecules will be in that tablespoon?
Oh, it's going to be a huge number. In the
How many?
thousands.
How many?
I don't know. Please tell me. Tell me, Udo.
No, I want you to give a number. I'm doing this for a very good purpose because this is very
I
helpful to
couldn't
everybody.
say.
I know because
Hundreds of
nobody.
thousands.
How many? So hundreds of thousands. How many hundreds thousands?
I don't know. 300,000. I have literally no idea
Okay.
how many.
Okay. I know this is the issue for everybody who's using oils, right? Because we don't know. We don't know how big the molecules are. So you said
No,
300,000.
true. Yeah.
300,000. So how many zeros in 300,000?
5.
Five, right? So
Yeah.
would you like to know the actual number?
Yeah. Yeah.
A 6 followed by 19 zeros. 60
Okay.
quintillion damaged molecules in a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged. And these are US tablespoons. They're only 50 milliliters. Your tablespoon is 20, right? So you got 60 quintillion damaged molecules. That's more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells, right? And you have pesticides in them. And there's plastic in them because plastic leaches into oils quicker than into water. And if you fry them, you've got to multiply that number by maybe 3 to 6 times because you're damaging the oil with light, oxygen, heat all at the same time. And you do that for 30 years. So you got to multiply that number by about 11,000. That's the number of days that you're doing this. And you're probably using 2 to 4 tablespoons a day, or for you guys, maybe 1.5 to 3 tablespoons a day. So you got to multiply all that. And that's how much toxicity you're putting into your body. So your number, let's say it was 1 million. Let's say it was 6 million because it makes the math easier. So that was 13 zeros too short. That's 1,000, 1 million, 1 billion, 1 trillion. That's 12 zeros. So it's 10 trillion times. So our estimate of the damage we're putting into our body when we use those oils is 1 trillion times, 10 trillion times worse than we think it is. So then I was in Ireland. I said, well, if you found out you were going to get on a plane, you're going to fly home for the holidays, and somebody who only tells the truth told you, did you know that your chance of crashing and dying on your flight was 10 trillion times higher than you thought it was? Would you get on the airplane? And I said to them, no, I would canoe back to Canada, right? Because we're doing this to ourselves day after day after day. We have never been told the damage done. And we way underestimate how much damage we're putting into our body. And when I figured out that, I said, oh my God, we need to make oils with health in mind.
Yeah.
And we need to protect them from light, oxygen, heat so they don't get damaged. And then the same year, the year after I got poisoned, it was established that omega-3 is an essential nutrient and that 99% of the population does not get enough of it for optimum health. And so that was the second part. What the motivation, like, oh my God, if we could make omega-3s with health in mind and bring them back into the population, oh my God, we could help almost everybody. And I don't know about you, but when you help people, when you do something that helps, it always feels good in your chest. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you hurt people, it doesn't feel good in your chest. Well, the idea that, oh my God, we could help almost everybody felt so good in the heart. That was the motivator. And then I had no business background, but we were on fire. So we made all kinds of business decisions to build the industry just because of, oh my God, we could help so many people. And I came out of the Second World War. So, the idea of, I've always thought we could live better than we do. So anytime I can do something that helps people, I want to do that. Anytime there's something that hurts people, don't count on me. That's just how. So that's the long answer to the motivation
No,
question.
love it. Thank you. And we're very grateful. Very grateful. Thank you. I mean, I was going to ask you if the products still have a role in sort of everyday health and wellness, but I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
the answer to that is definitely yes. And
yeah,
when we're talking, if we stayed on the seed oils, if we stayed on, well, if we stayed on the subject of oils, what's
yeah.
your opinion about what is maybe like a common day assumption now, which is that comes up quite a lot, which is the idea of like seed oils being bad, or the fact that like
Yeah.
all seed oils are the same or they're produced equal. What would you say to people who don't want to touch seed
Yeah.
oils?
Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Let me do
Mm,
do they still have a role first?
sure. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, when a nutrient is essential, it's not essentially just for this week. It's not a fad. It's a truth. It's like two and two added together will always be four. Will that still be true next year? Yes. Was it true a century ago? Yes. Will it still be true 10 million years from now? Yes, because that's the nature of truth. It's built to last and it's always the same. And if you're looking for variety, which is the mind looks for variety, then you always want to change things up. But you don't change up, you don't get benefit from saying that 2 plus 2 is 5 or any other number, right? And truth is powerful that way. Yes, it'll always be the same damn two essential fatty acids that you will require, that your body will require to be healthy. And that's not going to change. And it might change. If we turn into plants again, it might change. Like if I turn into a vegetable, because plants can make those from scratch. That's why we depend on plants to get them, or from animals that ate plants that get them to get them, right? So the idea is, and sometimes people say, Udo's always just telling the same old story. We want a new story. Well, you can't get a new story on truth. Truth does not change. It does not change. Here's somebody says, I've been using your product for 30 years. I didn't get the rest of the message. Anyway, so that's the thing about, and the mind likes distraction. And so the question about, is this still relevant, or you should do something to make it relevant? That's a mind question. I'm here for the heart. The heart question is, I always want peace, I always want love, and I always want health. And I'll do whatever it takes, no matter how boring it'll get, to make sure that the same thing that I require for health will be provided every day. Oh God, not Udo's oil again. Oh God, not oh God, not magnesium again. Oh, can we maybe do something with a little polonium? No, that's stupid, right? The body is the requirements of there's differences in between people in how much is optimum, and you have to experiment a little bit with that. But the 42 essential nutrients that fit the definition of essential are essential for every human being that has ever been studied. Every one of them. And omega-3 and omega-6, alpha linolenic acid and linoleic acid, they will always be essential for human being. And optimum we measure by how the skin feels. If your skin is dry, you need more oil. Anyway, so I just wanted to get on that, because people often do that. That's probably the biggest criticism I get. Well, don't you have a new story? Yeah, I can make one up.
Mm.
Yeah, if you want a couple of lies, yeah, we're good at creating stuff, right? But the truth, this is like something stable, and it's important to remember that when the question comes. Okay, so then the question about seed oils. Well, we have a bunch of books in the US right now. They say, don't use seed oils, don't use omega-6s because they're toxic.
Mm.
And there have been books like that pretty much every year in North America in the 40 plus years that I've been working with oils. And it's always the same issue. The seed oils are damaged by processing, 0.5 to 1%. So you get more than a million damaged molecules for every cell in a tablespoon almost everybody uses those oils. So they're getting with their omega-6s, which are essential, they're getting damaged omega-6s, which are toxic. And then studies are done with these oils. And then they notice some toxic results. And nobody ever blames the damage done to the oil for these toxic effects. They just blame the oil. You know, when I got the question about omega-6 is essential and it gives you cancer and kills you, that's what made me look deeper. All these people who quote each other that omega-6s and seed oils are bad have not done half of their homework. They've done half the homework. They look at the studies. They haven't said, you know, they have assumed that omega-6s are toxic when in fact they're essential to every cell in your body. And they haven't looked at how they're made and the damage done to the oils by both the processing and by food prep. And so they blame, and you know, then you have to ask a question. If omega-6s are toxic, then why is it that seeds and nuts, when you eat them whole and fresh and not salted and roasted, are associated with longevity? So, you know, so those same, if omega-6s are toxic, they'd be toxic in the seeds too. So it isn't the omega-6s, it's the damage done to them that should be blamed for the problems they sometimes cause. That's the one issue. The second issue is we have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, maybe even 10 times our omega-6 intake in the past 150 years. And we've reduced our omega-3 intake to 1/6 of what people got in 1850. So we've changed the ratio hugely. And there's a problem with that. So people say, oh, like the fish oil industry will say, well, your body can't convert flax oil, alpha linolenic acid, omega-3 into fish oil. Yeah, you know why not? Because omega-3 and omega-6 are converted into their derivatives by the same enzymes in our cells. And when you have a huge amount of omega-6 and you've got a tiny amount of omega-3, the omega-6s will crowd out the omega-3s, and you get what is called a functional omega-3 deficiency, which means you have omega-3s, but they're being prevented from doing their work. So you have to get the ratio right so that both of them can be converted by the same enzymes in the cells, and both of them unfold their are turned into all the derivatives. There's dozens of them into the derivatives, and both of those, you know, the derivatives from omega-3 and the derivatives of omega-3 of omega-6, which some have some opposing functions, that they can both do their job, that they can both be created and do their job. And nobody complains about not being able to convert omega-6s. That's because we get lots of them. You know, because if there was a problem converting omega-3, there would also be a problem converting omega-6. They're the same enzymes in the cells. That's not getting any airtime, right? So you have to raise omega-3s, and then the omega-6s are damaged. So you need to have. I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil. I used it as my only source of oil in the diet. I became omega-6 deficient. Dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis like pain in finger joints, and thin papery skin. Classic omega-6 deficiency symptoms. Fixed them by eating sunflower seeds, which have omega-6 but no omega-3, and then decided we need to make a blend where the ratio is right. So it's a little lower than flax oil. The ratio is twice as much omega-3 as omega-6. You have to have enough omega-6 to not become deficient. And the omega-6s need to be made with health in mind. So what I'm saying to people is stop using the seed oils that are damaged, that have damaged omega-6s in them. We put omega-6s made with health in mind in the blend to address that issue, as well as the issue of not having enough omega-3 in the diet.
Yeah, okay. So that has driven why you've got twice as much omega-3 as omega-6 in the ultimate oil.
Yeah, and the practical reason for that is that when we've because I'm in the field and I work with people, and you know, in a lot of places. So we've been around a lot. We've been with more people than any of the researchers. We have always got our best results when the ratio is 2 to 1. We did athlete studies that in 30 days of taking a tablespoon, we're talking US tablespoon, 15 milliliters per 50 pounds of body weight per day of the oil mixed in food, spread out over the course of the day, never used for frying. Within 30 days, if they did their sport to exhaustion, they got 40 to 60% increase in performance. We've done it with strength athletes, and we've done it with endurance athletes.
Mm. Okay, and so
there's
to
there's no
convert that
study.
to,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say,
Go
to
ahead.
convert that to kilograms for us. So that would be
Oh,
per 7 odd kilograms, you were recommending a tablespoon of the
yeah,
oil
a
for
US tablespoon,
performance.
50 milliliters per
Yeah.
25 kilograms, ballpark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, kilogram is 2.2 pounds.
Gotcha. So just going back to what you were saying about the balance for the omega-3 and the omega-6, what would you say to those people that believe that it's only omega-3 that is, you know, worth supplementing, or somebody who would immediately recommend omega-3 only to work with the pretty classic omega-3 deficiency that we might be expecting in somebody following like a typical Western diet, and not considering omega-6 in there?
It's not sustainable just taking omega-3s. It's not sustainable. You know, if you want to be healthy, you got to do something that's sustainable. And that's why we're doing it that way. We're high grading the omega-3s because they're so low. We're bringing in omega-6s made with health in mind, and we're telling people that your body needs an oil change just like your car. You got to get the dirty oil out, and you got to replace it with clean oil. And so we're telling people to not use these seed oils that have been treated with what we call Drano window washing, bleached, and fried before they go in the bottle, because you're buying products that have a ton of toxic molecules in them. And by the way, more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition. And more health benefits will come from making the oil change your body needs. More problems than from sugar. You know, especially when you fry them. You know, there's a study that shows that cooks who spend 8 hours a day in front of a frying pan making foods for customers in restaurants have 4 times more lung cancer than people at home who only spend 2 hours in front of the frying pan cooking for their family. And it's because you're burning the oil, it turns into smoke, the fans are not perfect, so they're breathing in these fumes 8 hours a day, 4 times, 400% more lung cancer. And so because they're the most sensitive of our nutrients, they should be treated with the most care. We actually treat them with the least care. And so what we did is we said, no, we need to give those oils the care they need so they retain their health benefits and they can unfold them in your body.
How would you recommend that somebody, if they did want to supplement omega-3 at high levels, you know, maybe they've been recommended it by a nutritionist or something like this, how would you recommend that they incorporated that on top of what you're recommending as a dietary, as alongside the dietary oils you're recommending?
Well, it's interesting because fish oils are 30% omega-3. Udo's oil is 45% omega-3. You're already getting them. You know, it's already a high, and we're giving you tablespoons, not grams, right? Because it's food oil foundation. The food oils are major nutrients. So there's like 2 to 4 tablespoons for most adults. I'm always doing US tablespoons, so it's a little less for the UK tablespoons. Okay, so you're talking about 1.5 to 3 UK tablespoons, right? That's quite a bit. And there's like 20 grams? No, about 18 grams in a tablespoon, a UK tablespoon, 18 grams, and 1 to 3 is like we're talking somewhere between 28 and 56 grams a day. When you take fish oil, you're getting 3. So and we've got 45% omega-3, and the fish oil's got 30% omega-3. And where do you think you're going to get more omega-3s from? Right?
Are
So the
you
whole
effectively
even the way that the question gets formulated when people ask it makes it really clear that they haven't been told how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Are you effectively saying then that by taking enough of a dietary source of your omega-3, say like with a high quality flaxseed oil, that the worries that some people have about those conversion rates and that ability to break it down to EPA, DHA, they're not as founded as perhaps we think they are. You know, that there's the ability to convert.
It's BS.
Okay.
And let me say one more thing about it. The fact that we don't get enough omega-3s is an important factor, so we got to bring that in. The fact that the ratio is wrong, we need to deal with that as well. So you want to maybe lower your omega-6s some, but you don't want to lower too much because flax is too low in omega-6. So that doesn't work. Okay. That's why we made the blend, because I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil, right? So that's an important issue. And then there's some other issues. If you're on a really crappy diet, you will slow down conversion. And what is a crappy diet? Too much sugar, too much starch, too much saturated fat, too much monounsaturated fat, and too much omega-6 will inhibit omega-3 conversion. Again, it's partially the ratio issue. And you need certain minerals and vitamins in the enzymes that do the conversion. Key among them, vitamin C, which last time I looked, 41% of the population doesn't get even the 60 milligrams, and Optum is higher than that. Vitamin B6, 80% doesn't get enough even to cover the minimum. And vitamin B3, about a third of the population doesn't get enough. And then zinc and magnesium, all essential nutrients, are required for the conversion. 80% of the population doesn't get enough magnesium, probably 50 to 60 doesn't get enough zinc. So you need to look at that as well, because the conversion happens in the context of nutrition. And fundamentally, the question you really need to ask that includes the oils is, what does a diet for optimum health look like, and how do I put that diet together for myself? Right? So you can't, and when the studies are done, they never give you the context. You know, there are studies who say men can't convert. You know how I can prove that to you? I can prove to you that men convert, and I can prove to you that men don't convert. The way I can prove that men don't convert, I will get people who eat too many starches, too many sugars, too many desserts, too much sweet stuff, and eat a ton of processed foods which have had minerals and vitamins removed. And if I can, I might even pick people who are magnesium deficient, measured magnesium deficient, and then I'll put them on the diet, and I'll show you that conversion is really slow. If I want to show you that conversion is really fast, then I will make sure that these people I put in the study have optimized their intake of the minerals and vitamins, and have minimized their intake of other oils, other fats, and carbs and starches. And then they're going to convert more, right? If they're plant-based completely, they'll convert more. If they use turmeric in their diet, turmeric improves the conversion. If they don't get enough, the body conserves it. This is all from the research. The body conserves it, and it lasts longer. So there's a lot of issues that you need to look at when you put things in context. And the studies never put things in context. And they don't tell you whether they had all these, who the people in their study were, and what the context of their nutritional program was. And that's why you have to take all of those things with a grain of salt, because there are people who said, some studies said conversion is 21%. And others say no conversion in men. And then some, and so women convert better than men because during pregnancy, they have to build a brain in their body and maintain their own brain. And they get depleted because most people don't get enough omega-3s. And that gives them health problems that men tend not to get, right? It's always the context. What is the issue? What is the, and that needs to be, that has been very, very badly neglected in the way the research is done.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing that you're saying effectively is that it's very easy, I think, probably, especially if you're in a health food store and somebody's coming in, they want to know, maybe quite briefly as well, about omegas, what supplements do you have, etc. It can be quite easy to sort of maybe have these little bits that we talk to people about, and conversion rates might be something that even's brought up. But what you're saying is that it's less that we need to worry about our ability to take the omega-3, utilize that omega-3 from plant sources, etc. And more really, what else is going on? What's the bigger picture? Do you have all your cofactors? Because that's going to be really what's dictating it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say one more thing. I'm 82. Okay. I do not use fish oils. I do not use krill oil. If I was using a supplement, I would use krill oil because it's not damaged like the fish oils. And by the way, the fish omega-3s are 25 times more sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, heat than the omega-6 essential fatty acid. So when you take a little bottle of fish oil, sometimes you get not in capsules, but in a bottle, and you put it in your fridge and you open it up, and because you take a little and you put it back in your fridge, within days you can smell the rancidity because fish oils are so reactive, right? So I'm not using any fish oils. I'm not using any supplements. And I'm here to prove that everything they say about fish oils is not true, because most of that thing about you can't convert came from the fish oil industry as turf protection. And it started the week in 1987 that we introduced flaxseed oil to the North American market. And I know who the person was, and I know what the company was that started that, because before that, they used to always say, 30% of the population can't convert enough. And so they would need supplements, and 70% can. That's what the fish oil industry said until we came out with flax oil in 1987. I was there, it's like, it's kind of cool. I used to be the father of fats. Now I'm the grandfather of fats, right? And I've been there for the whole story. Right, and I've seen all the things, and I belong to the club that studies fatty acids and lipids, and they get grants from the fish oil industry, and then the professors put in a good word for fish oil, and then they say things like, "Oh yeah, the body can't really convert." It's not true. It's never been true. Elephants convert, zebras convert, horses convert, rabbits convert. Why can they convert and we can't? Gorillas convert. They only eat veggies. We're very closely related genetically. And somebody once asked Walter Willett, what would happen if your body couldn't convert the plant omega-3 and 6 to the derivatives? And he, without any hesitation, he says, if you couldn't convert, you would be dead. So all the SNPs, and the people who can't convert as well because of genetic factors, you got to take it with a grain of salt. And there's now some other ways that the body can convert the essential fatty acids using a different enzyme system that is only recently discovered. So there's more coming down the pike about conversion that will put the light to fish oil.
Interesting. As much as I'd like to continue talking about fats, because there's so much to know, we have had other questions about the other products in the Udo's Choice range. And, so we've got a whole range of probiotics. There's the digestive enzymes, the Beyond Greens, which is that great vegetable powder. So in terms of probiotics, what's your take on sort of the role that probiotics play in like the prevention and like management of diseases and disorders?
Okay. So probiotics and enzymes are not essential nutrients. They're essential for health, but they're not absorbed into the body, maybe, right? So they do their work in the digestive tract, and the inside of your digestive tract is actually outside your body. So they do their work outside your body, and then you digest, break things down, and then you absorb what you need and the rest stays inside. So probiotics, and the way I always look at it is, how was it in nature before we got civilized? Well, first of all, nature's mandate for creatures that eat was fresh, whole, raw, organic, local. For human beings, probably mostly plant-based, but there were places where that wasn't true because they had herds of buffalo and some ate a lot of meat. But it seems like the meat eaters tend not to live as long as the plant eaters, both among animals and among humans. But if you're going to be plant-based, it's got to be fresh, whole, raw, organic. That's got to be the standard, not margarine and not sugar, because those are plant-based, right? So it has to be living in line with nature, and then living in line with your nature. So if you were running around naked in the woods or in the tropics, and you were eating leaves like the monkeys do, you would find probiotics on the foods you eat. They come in they live in the fermenting layer of soil on top of the earth, and then when a plant pushes through, it picks up probiotics, and the soil bacteria are stripped back into the soil. The soil bacteria are rot bacteria because they turn over, not all of them, but many of them, they turn over dead matter. That's their job. So this probiotics are on the plants they eat. When a cow eats grass, it gets probiotics in its mouth with every mouthful of grass. And if you ever smelled the breath of a cow, I grew up on a farm, their breath was really sweet. And it never occurred to me, why is it that cows don't have bad breath? Because they get probiotics in their mouth, and the probiotics fight the rot bacteria, and they steal their food, and they outpopulate them. And I actually brush my teeth with probiotics in the evening because they're supposed to start at the top, and then they go through the whole system and do their jobs there. Now, here's the thing. When we got civilized, we invented fire, and then we started cooking food. When you cook food, you kill the probiotics that are on the living food. Now, where are they going to come from? You have to replace them. If you want to be healthy, you have to replace them. They ride shotgun on the entire microbiome. And the two that do it best, the best are the bifidobacteria, and the second best are the lactobacteria. And they tend to need refrigeration because they don't form spores. But they're the one who have been researched the most, and you get new things coming in all the time. That's mind play again, right? And some of the research is only done by the people who are selling the product. So you got to be aware of that. And so fundamentally, the reason you need probiotics is because you kill them when you process and cook your foods, and you need them for health. And so you need to replace them. And then what they do, well, there's bacteria in digestive tract. I think between them, they have, let's see, what was it? 100 times more genes making things than your genetic material. You have 23,000 genes, and they together have 2.3, and they're all making all kinds of stuff. And then depending on what kind of stuff they make, some of it gets absorbed into your body and affects various places in your body. It's not complicated, right? It goes in your muscles, goes in your liver, goes in your brain, wherever it goes, and wherever it goes, it will do what it does. And some of those bacteria make toxic products. The probiotics make molecules that enhance immune function, that also enhance mood, and mood affects your brain, And so now you're like, I think we're not that far into studying probiotics more effectively. It's really only started really seriously 20 years ago. And they're finding out affect everything. Everything affects everything, right? So you need to, and I don't particularly worry, is this going to give me an IQ point more? Or, is my joint going to creak a little less? I don't have any creaking joints, actually. So I have no way to measure that. But I just take them because they're required, and let them unfold what they do And that was figured out in nature over the last 4.5 billion years. And we're a long ways from understanding all of it. And people always try, oh, it's this gene and it's that molecule. And you know what? There are so many of those, it becomes confusing. All you need to know is if you cook your food, you need to replace the probiotics you killed when you cooked the food. And probiotics and lactobacilli are the two that have the most studies done on them. I guess mushroom and yeast also have some pretty good effects, and those are all, yeast has been around for a while as a nutritional thing. Mushrooms have been just beginning to get really good attention. Some awesome things there. So that's important. And then for enzymes, in raw food, there are enzymes that when you chew the foods properly, they digest about 60% on average of the food for you. And some foods do 90% of their self-digestion, and some of them only do 10. So there's a range. But when you cook the foods or you process them, you destroy the enzyme. Your body was made for raw foods. If they're doing on average 60% of your digestion for you, if you destroy them, then you're loading up your digestive system with more than twice the load, right? Because digestive system does 40%, this is 60% done, right? So if you make all that fall to your digestive system, 2.5 times more work for your digestive system. Gee, if it was made for raw food, you think that might catch up with you? So either you go back to eating raw foods, or when you cook the foods, you replace the enzyme that you destroyed when you cooked or processed the food. And then some people said, well, aren't you going to make your digestive system lazy when you do that? No, your food was supposed to be supplying those enzymes. So you're just putting it back to how it was in nature. No, it wasn't exactly like that in nature, but you're creating similar situation of how it was in nature, even though you're civilized. So you got to be a little bit uncivilized in your eating if you want better health.
Are you suggesting then that we should be regularly taking enzymes just for general digestion, rather than maybe recommending them for specific situations or specific people, like maybe the diet change, or if their nutrient needs have gone up or something like that?
Yeah, no, I would say this is the cooked food cure. So anytime you cook food, you need enzymes. But even the people who eat all raw foods, when they take enzymes with their raw foods, they get better results in practice. Okay, so the other thing is the most important enzymes are the proteolytic enzymes, the proteases. And the reason for that is that proteins are very complicated, and when they don't get digested properly, they cause lots of inflammatory, can even cause autoimmune problems. And so you want to make sure that the proteins are digested. So the enzymes that I work with, they always make sure they have a good range of different proteases, because that they improve protein digestion. And they have to have a little bit of lipase, and you have a little bit of amylase for starch digestion, because there are some proteins that have starch strings on them. They're called lectins. And they're hard to digest if you don't first digest the starch strings off the protein. And when you've done that, then the proteins become easy to digest. So all the people who talk about lectins are bad and lectins this and don't eat that and don't eat that, no, they're just not understanding the need for digestion of those lectins and how that's done in the body. And of course, they're all people who sell something instead of lectins. They use the lectins to scare you, and then they say, oh, well, I'm the guy who crucified you, but I'm going to save you too. Right? And then they sell something behind the fear mongering. Yeah, people do it all the time. For me, it's like I'm kind of laid back that way. It's like I just want to live in line with nature, because I want to have the longest life and the best quality of health for as long as possible. And there is no other way to do that than living in line with nature and my nature. Now, to finish digestion, Fiber is the third part. Fiber is huge food for probiotics, but everything, it slows down sugar absorption, it deals with bowel regularity. The fiber is major antioxidants, so it's anti-inflammatory. So very important. And of course, fiber comes from plants. Animals are mostly fiberless. So you need more fiber, you eat more plants, not complicated. And then the fourth one is bitters and different herbs for digestion. Bitter herbs, there are tons of them. Wormwood is one, very bitter, very good for digestion and liver function. And they help digestion. So those are the four things I use for digestion. Right. And so I think that's all I want to say about that for now.
And is this where the greens come in, really? Because we've got the probiotics, the enzymes, and then we've got that lovely greens powder as well.
Yeah. So I started with oils, and then when I finished with oils, it was like, okay, what's the next worst problem? Oh, digestion. Everybody's got something going on with digestion. Okay, so let's deal with digestion. And so then I dealt with digestion, and I said, okay, what's next? And believe it or not, all I'm trying to do is help you obey your grandmother. You know, your grandmother who said, eat your greens, you know, eat your veggies, right? You know, and because we all know we should be eating our greens, and a lot of people don't eat them. And so we made portable greens. One of them, it gives you some independence when you travel, and a lot of people are traveling a lot these days. So they're in powder form. We made them taste good because, you know, I used to say, you know, if you get barley grass and oat grass and wheat grass, you know, tastes like grass. And I used to say, you have to have the tongue of a cow to like the taste of grass. And so we made them taste good, and there's herbs in there and there's spices in there. So it's kind of like a superfood powder, and literally just to make sure you get greens and you get the best greens. I don't know if I want to make it any more complicated than that. And then I said, okay, well, what is next? And I said, you know what? Actually, everything affects health. And then, so I got from there, I didn't get into minerals and vitamins because there's already lots of those that exist. So I'm just trying to do what needs attention. And so then I say, well, if everything affects health, then we need to look at everything. So then I got into human nature and human surroundings and look at how do those affect health. And that's a work in progress that I don't usually talk too much about in UK and Ireland, but I'm working on what human nature is, because probably we need to know it. And it's all inside, and we don't go inside. We mostly live in reaction to the world rather than inside. But if you know what's inside of you, there's a lot of factors that improve your health, as well as your longevity, as well as your peace of mind, as well as your comfort in social and other changing situations.
Oh, naturally.
And so that's also important for him.
No, I said naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then that I'm working on a teachable field of total health based in nature and human nature. That's what I'm doing now.
What in terms of looking at the body as like a whole system, I mean, that wasn't actually what you were just saying necessarily, but you know, in terms of looking at the whole body, you've just said that we've got products for digestion, your greens, your fiber, and then the oils as kind of the foundation, right? The foundation of the everything that you could see was likely to be missing and needing attention. In terms of using the products specifically for, you know, if somebody wanted to really specify how they were using the oils or the enzymes or the probiotics, what would you sort of recommend, or do you have recommendations for how somebody might specifically do that? So in terms of the probiotics, for example, for mental health, or digestion for, and when we think that enzymes might be missing because of chronic health issues with the gut, are they specific enough as products to be used with specific sort of systems or disorders, etc.?
Yeah, well, yes and no. And partly the issue is can't diagnose, treat, prescribe. And in a way, the fact that I'm not allowed to do that is good. Because if you can have let's say you have a skin problem, okay, just to make it simple. You have a skin problem and you don't know what it is. And you come to me and you say, well, if I pour oil on this, will that fix it? Right? Well, I don't know, because I don't know what is the cause. Because you can get a skin problem from infectious microorganism in your skin. Oil might drown them, but it might not, right? Or you could get a skin problem from, I don't know, let's see, what gives you skin problems? Well, okay, let me go elsewhere. You're depressed. Well, my oil lifted depression. So my answer is, if your depression is caused by not getting enough omega-3, omega-6 in the right ratio in your oils, it will fix it. But if your depression is from vitamin B12 deficiency, then you have to take vitamin B12 to fix it. So when you say, will this fix my problem? I need to know for sure what is the exact cause of the problem, and then address the exact cause, right? If you have high blood pressure, omega-3s will relax arterial muscle tone. But if your high blood pressure is from stress, you got to deal with the stress. Or if your high blood pressure is from magnesium deficiency, which also relaxes arterial muscle tone, well, then you need to fix that. And that's why ultimately I always go back to, yes, you need to have these things in your diet, but you also need to create a program for health. And what does that look like for you? And a lot of times, people will say, oh, well, I want to fry. Can I fry with this and that? So I call that the Russian roulette question. People often are looking at all of their health issues as a, what can I get away with situation? And the answer is, you don't get away with anything. Russian roulette, there's a bullet in one chamber, right? When you hit the bullet, you die. The other 5 are empty, but you want to play Russian roulette? I don't, right? So then you have to say, okay, if I'm not going to play Russian roulette, what is the question I should be asking? Rather than what can I get away with? No, what would it take for me to have the best health and the longest life, given my genetic situation and given the world I live in? What would I need to put together that I have control over, that I can do, that I can commit to, that will give me the best health and the longest life? And that's going to be, oils are going to be involved, enzymes, probiotics, fiber, bitters are going to be involved, greens are going to be involved, minerals and vitamins will be involved, protein will be involved, carbohydrates will be involved. Carbohydrates, if you overeat them, is where most of the fat that's overweight comes from. And some of the water retention that's from inflammation comes from refined carbs too. But it comes from other toxins as well, right? So everything is involved. And how do you omit the toxins as much as you can? That's why you go organic. That's not perfect, but if it says organic, it's more likely to be cleaner than when it doesn't say organic, right? But so you literally have to put the whole program together. How do you get peace of mind? Because literally when you get stressed, you burn your body. Adrenaline and cortisol burn your body. Long term, they burn your body. Short term, they can save you in a survival situation. But if you're always stressed because you're trying to control the changing world and you can't control it, you're working against yourself, then you get anxious, then you're anxious all the time. Well, you create chemicals that hurt you when you do that long term. And so what do you do? Where do you want to live? What kind of a place do you want to live in? Who are the people that you want to hang out with? Because there's some people who put you down all the time. Well, that's not good for your health. Yeah. When we were kids, when I first came to Canada from Europe, we were in kids and we didn't speak any English. And the first words we learned were swear words on the soccer field, right? And when sometimes we'd be running around and somebody would miss the soccer ball and kick you in the shins, and it hurt like hell, right? And then we get really mad and we'd scream at them, or sometimes when they did other things that made us mad. He said, "You make me sick." So even as kids, we knew that other people affect your health. Right?
I mean, it's
And so
wildly unsatisfying, isn't it? When so much of the time we're sort of looking for quick fixes, or we're looking for things to introduce, and we can definitely sort of lose sight of the fact that we need to have that full picture view of health.
And that's the thing. And I think the reason for that is that the medical profession basically, you know, they concocted this whole system. It's not a healthcare system, it's a disease management system. They call it healthcare, it's disease management. They're misrepresenting the service they provide. Hygiene is good, they do deal with that, but the drugs, you know why they have side effects? Because they don't belong in the body. They're out of line with biology. So what do you need to do? Well, in nature, food, water, air, and light. Those are and that's the entire makeup of your body is food, water, air, and light. So choose the foods in line with nature, in line with your nature. And then so literally you have a lot of, and so the idea of one symptom, one drug, you know, one symptom, one magic bullet. So the magic bullet, everybody wants a magic bullet for whatever ails them. And there are probably, with everything that ails you, there are probably 6 or 7 things you need to do on the different levels of your existence, right? A little more peace, a little more love, a little more inspiration, you know, a little more good food, a little bit more exercise. So we're already up to 5. A little more skills to deal with crisis. That's number 7. Better friends. We're under 8. You know, cleaner environments, number 9. And more peace with the fact that your body is a terminal condition in an infinite universe. That's number 10.
Exactly.
So
I mean, what
each one of them needs attention.
When you were talking about looking at the sort of knowing your system, or looking at the whole system, in terms of, do you see value in getting to know your specific genetics, especially with regards to, say, seeing what your conversion rates would be with the omegas, you know, so doing any sort of genetic testing and finding that out. What's your take on that?
I don't do it. And
Yeah.
the reason I don't do it is that I am, and everyone listening and everybody else not listening, you are the end product of an unbroken line of successes in an experiment in nature that is 4 billion years old. And you think that, you know, and in that system, over those 4 billion years, everything that didn't work, everything that wasn't adapted to living in nature got recycled. And if it got recycled before reproduction, it disappeared from the gene pool. And this has been going on for 4 billion years. And then for me to say, oh, let me, you know, Watson and Crick got the Nobel Prize for, you know, and then, oh, now we think we know everything. We don't. We're scratching the surface. What we know is paltry. That's a good English word, I think, is paltry to what is to be known, what could be known. So when somebody says, oh, let me tell you about your genes, you know, what about the interactions between the genes? What about the nonsense that is 99% of the genetic material? It's called nonsense DNA. And now they're starting to find all that nonsense DNA has functions, and all the interactions between those functions, and then all the genetic material in the microbes in your gut that also play a role in your health. And you're going to tell me that this one SNP, and you're going to give me one magic bullet for this one SNP that you discovered, you know, and then you're going to say, let's call it a day. That's all you need for health. Come on. You know, and you know, so, and you know, holistic is like not magic bullet. Now, on the other hand, everybody needs oils, essential fatty acids. Everybody. Every human, not everybody, every human, because the plants don't need them because they make them, right? So they're not essential to plants. So every human needs omega-3 and omega-6. The ratio needs to be right. The total amount they need might be a little different for different people, not just depending on weight, but maybe also depending on genetic, oxidation rate, metabolic rate. Because in winter, you burn quite a bit of oil for energy and it keeps you warm, omega-3s especially, right? So the genes are involved, but the genes fundamentally are a collection of structures that by modifying their activity, keep you constant in a changing environment, right? That's what epigenetics is, right? It's things on the outside regulate your genes because they're there to regulate you both for your body construction function, but also to regulate the fact that what you're sticking into your belly changes every day. And so the genes have to adjust to do the things they need to do to keep you functioning like a, in a certain way, right? So they're adjusters. They don't control it as much as we say we do. And when I was in genetics, that was my love. That was my first love was genetics. We thought everything was genes turn on, genes turn off, gene turns up, genes turn down. Epigenetics didn't start being taken seriously until maybe probably 30 years ago. Bruce Lipton was one of the guys, and they started saying, wait a minute, the genes express themselves different depending on what kind of environment they put them in. And they saw it in petri dishes. But that's true. We're in a petri dish too. We're an organism in a petri dish called nature, right? And every day is different. The weather is different every day. The foods that are seasonal are different. So there's always change going on, and we function like an integrated whole in a changing situation. The genes help do that. Okay, enzymes and probiotics will always be required for digestion by everybody. If you ate only cooked food and never take any enzymes or digestive enzymes, you will burn out your digestive system because it was made for fresh, whole, raw, organic, right? Fiber, always going to be important. It's not going to change.
When would you, I mean, we're sort of coming to the end now, but I mean, when would you recommend specifically each of the products? Like, are there some key signs and symptoms that stick out for you for the probiotics, for the enzymes? Something that says this person needs this.
Yeah, I play with stuff all the time. So with probiotics, I have a high bifidobacteria probiotic, and at the end of in the evening before I go to bed, brush my teeth, do my oral hygiene stuff. I don't use mouthwashes or any of that stuff because they never worked. I always woke up with awful breath in the morning, right? What I do is after I've done my hygiene, I open 2 capsules of probiotics on my tongue, brush my teeth with them, make sure they're everywhere in my mouth, swallow them, go to bed with my mouth full of probiotics. And I wake up with exponentially less severe bad breath in the morning. Because the reason why breath is so bad in the morning is because when you're asleep, you don't swallow. And when you don't swallow, the rot bacteria that didn't get killed by your mouthwash, which is like 0.1%, then they multiply. Every 20 to 30 minutes, they double. By the time you wake up after 8 hours, you have 32 times more rot bacteria in your mouth than you had before your mouthwash. Than you had at the worst time. And they collect, so they just pile up. So you put probiotics in there, they inhibit their growth, steal their food, and outpopulate them. So I do that in the evening. And then in the morning, I brush my teeth again with probiotics. So that's how I do probiotics. But you could also add them to meals, opening them up in food that's cool enough to eat. That's a good way to do it. I find this works well for me. With enzymes, I take them with food, But I also take them, one other thing is enzymes rich in protease are super good for respiratory problems. You know, all the viruses, colds and flus and all those viruses, they all have protein coats. And when I start getting a sore throat or stuffy nose, I will take a capsule of enzymes, dump the contents on my tongue, swish them around in my mouth, make sure they go everywhere in my mouth, and then swallow them. And within hours, my sore throat's gone, because the protease enzymes will digest the protein coat off the viruses, and that puts the virus out of commission. It can't even get into your cells. So you pick them off, and that's the best way to deal with those viruses. You pick them off before they get into your body, right? You don't take a flu shot into the middle of your muscle. There are flu bugs there. Why aren't you picking them off here? By cleaning your nose. You can do that with water. You can do it with acid water. You can do it with salt water, and making sure that the viruses in your mouth get killed by enzymes.
Okay,
and bacteria, they help with bacteria as well. But I also take them with food, and so they have if you take them with meals, they help you mix in the food and they digest the food. If you take them between meals, there's some evidence that some of them can be absorbed intact and then given to the immune system and give the immune system a little more ammunition for doing its jobs.
Okay, so the probiotics, which we think of quite often as that, part of that innate immunity, that mucosal immunity that they're helping to produce, you're also saying that you can use the enzymes not just for digestion, but it will also help with your immune system as well to protect you in that similar way.
Both of them help the immune system. Yeah, the probiotics also make the mucilage, the mucin that covers the inside of your digestive tract. They stimulate the cells in your gut that make the mucin, and that protects you from abrasion and infection and stuff. So probiotics do that as well. So yeah, and then let's see what else.
Sorry, probiotics post antibiotics tends to be what I think a lot of people would approach probiotics for. Yeah. But it sounds like you're suggesting that really these are all parts of just a healthy system. We would be taking them, maybe not all the time, but definitely regularly.
Yeah, let me talk about it. I would take them every day if I was cooking my food. But let me talk about antibiotics. Usually people, I say to people, take probiotics before, during, and after probiotic treatment. Antibiotic treatments. So before, during, and after antibiotic treatments. Take probiotics. Why? Because they're always required. While you're on antibiotics, the antibiotics will kill the probiotics. And then as your antibiotic wears off, you're actually opening a window for reinfection. And if you're taking probiotics throughout, then the probiotics will be there to repopulate your gut when the antibiotic wears off. So that's what I recommend to do, and most people just don't do it. They don't take probiotics, and then often after antibiotics, they start having a lot of digestive problems. Yeah, because you killed the probiotics, and then to reintroduce them is harder. Don't let them get unintroduced in the first place. And then if you do probiotics systematically every day, your chance of getting the infections in the gut that you needed antibiotics for are much less likely.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that whole let's protect the system as much as we can. Start and end.
And it will always be from nature that the protection comes. We use our drugs and stuff for heroic interventions. But the long-term sustainable thing is never going to be heroic intervention. It will always be living in line with nature and your nature, and bringing in all the building blocks and all of the essential digestion helpers, and eating herbs and spices. I'm very big on spices because some of the spices are anti-everything that can go wrong with you, right? Anti-inflammatory, anti-cholesterol, anti-cancer, anti-cardio, anti-diabetes. And I'm talking about turmeric and cayenne and ginger, garlic, amla, black seed, cloves, cinnamon, you know. So I use these spices all the time. I actually mix them with my oil in tahini. Dump the tahini oil, put my oil in tahini, organic, mix it all up, and then I dip my veggies in it. I eat a lot of raw and a lot of plant-based these days. I'm 82 and I have no pains in any of my joints, and I have quite a bit of energy. I'm still firing on at least 2 cylinders, you know, and it's made a difference because when I got poisoned, I began to pay attention because I didn't like what I had to look forward to if I kept living the way I was living. So I made the change.
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Are there any of the products that you would be recommending, or just in general, probiotics, enzymes, greens, etc., for specific ages, for specific stages of life, or not really? I know that the probiotics, you've got a whole range there, and they are age based, but
right.
Yeah.
So oils. The research says that when a woman becomes essential fatty acid deficient and then fixes it, it can still have some effects on a child born 3 years later. And every cell in the child, as well as every cell in the mother, requires essential fatty acids. So essential fatty acids from before conception till after demise, every day, if you take the right amount. But you can not take any for a week. You won't die. If you stop taking any essential fatty acids, you would probably die maybe in 2 or 3 years, because slowly your body uses them up and they don't get replaced, and then the body tries to conserve them, but eventually it can't do it. So it's like, so you have time. So you can't. I do it every day pretty much because I make it part of my routine. Then I don't have to think, well, when's the last time I took my oil? I don't do it that way. I don't take it off a spoon. I always mix the oil in foods because it enhances flavor and improves the absorption of oil-soluble nutrients. So that's oil. Enzymes, if you're going to digest the food, it should be in the food. So you can open the enzymes in food that's cool enough to eat. If you boil them, you destroy them. And so you pretty much want to take those with your meals. Because I eat mostly raw, it's not as important for me to do that, but I use them as soon as I think I got, there's lots of respiratory stuff going on these days. So as soon as I have some, I have not had a cold for 5 years. And I started taking a lot of vitamin D too, because that's about 80% deficiency. And vitamin D is not just for bones and teeth. It's actually pretty much every cell in your body has vitamin D receptors. So it plays roles everywhere. Huge, huge issue. And what else? I take magnesium consistently. I take supplements consistently with my food, just because it's insurance. If I make expensive urine, at least I got peace of mind. Right? Some people say, "Oh, that just makes it expensive urine." That's not true, but that's what they say, And those are the people who want you to be sick so they can throw drugs at you. And then the greens, I usually use them when I'm traveling, because at home I eat lots of greens. But you can put them if you do shakes and smoothies. They're really good in shakes and smoothies. And then in terms of the probiotics, everybody needs probiotics every day. In nature, you would have got them on food every day. But what's in the human digestive tract changes over time, and the amount you need increases. And that's why we made them age specific. And that's based on research that's been done on what are the probiotics that are most commonly present in healthy human beings during different parts of the lifespan. And so that's what I do. And basically, there's a question, I think, is like curative, or what is it? Is it to cure or to maintain? Is that it? The thing that you do for health, to stay healthy, is also the thing that will cure you of what happened when you didn't do that. So it's not different. You know, it's sometimes when people are sick, they say, well, should I take more of this? Well, it depends. If you're optimizing your intake, you don't need to do that. You might get there a little faster if you increase it, but you might also be overdoing it. So if you optimize your intake, literally disease will leave the building. You know, if you're putting the whole program together and you just do it what you would want to be to stay healthy, there will be no room for disease in your body. So it will leave the building. And so I don't have a separate, oh, let's maintenance and curative. Now in the hands of healers, there might be times when more of something is helpful. I don't go there because I'm not licensed. I'm just trying to build a program so you can do what you need to do to have the longest health, the longest health and the best life, the best health and longest life.
As you can. I mean, you can only do what you can.
Yeah, and one day, you know, the body is a terminal condition. One day your body will check out. So what do you want to do? You want to enjoy this gift that's made out of dust, water, air, and light. You want to enjoy this gift that you have maximally for the short time you have it, because you didn't exist for billions of years. Now you're here for 100 if you're lucky. Then you're not going to exist for billions, right? This got to be the holiday. This got to be the big deal.
Yeah.
Make the most of it. Be present in your life, and you know, do what you need to do to keep present.
Yeah. To live your best, I guess. We can really need to wrap up now.
Okay.
I've got but I do have a couple of very specific quick questions for you.
Yeah.
Which have just been sent through, and it was just somebody commenting on you saying you can mix the probiotics and the enzymes with food. They've asked, would you do that at the same time? Is that, you know, you're making a sort of protein smoothie or something, you put the enzymes in there, you put the probiotics in there.
Oh, you could do that. Yep.
Yep.
Put probiotics and enzymes in the smoothie, no problem at all.
Yeah. And for the Super 8 lozenges, when you were talking about looking after the mouth with the probiotics.
You mean Super 5?
I do mean the Super 5. Thank you. The Super 5 lozenges.
Okay.
When would you be recommending to take them rather than your approach, which is the full capsule?
Well, the idea of the Super 5 was that after a meal, instead of eating dessert, you take a Super 5 and you dissolve it in your mouth. And I measured the time it takes. In my mouth, it takes 13 minutes. You dissolve it, you don't chew it. You dissolve it in your mouth, you get the sweet raspberry taste, right? So that's kind of like your dessert. More dessert than that is not a good idea. And then you're making the probiotics and you're starting them in your mouth. And then they deal with, you know, all the rotting things between your teeth, and you know, they help with that. We had dentists in Norway who were giving Super 5 to their dental patients for oral hygiene. And so that's what the idea of that was. And out of that came, and the idea was, well, in nature, the probiotics always start in the creature's mouth, right? They don't swallow capsules. What we do is we swallow the capsules, and then you get benefits from your stomach down, but you don't get benefits from your stomach up. But probiotics have benefits in your mouth, your esophagus, too. So why not start them where they start in nature? So that was the point of it. And that's also why I do the toothbrushing in the evening that way.
Okay, so just a really user-friendly form then of getting the probiotics in the mouth, starting there, and
yeah.
And
no,
then,
not
yeah.
all probiotics taste really good. The bifidobacteria that I use taste really good, and the Super 5 tastes really good. Some of the probiotics don't taste as good, so that's an issue as well. And I use those too because those taste good.
And yeah, it's been a great evening, a really, really enlightening in many different ways. And I hope everybody has enjoyed and taken from some new information from it. And yeah, just doing a sign off that's just never ending. But we thank you very much, Udo.
Yeah, have an awesome evening, and thank you for coming, and thank you for listening, and thank you for letting me rant and rave here.
No, thank you very much. We've appreciated it. And thank you to everybody who joined.